This is the connector for the Joy Con rail on a Nintendo Switch right here, and this over here is going to be the backlight connector. And you can see they both kind of got melted. There was a prior attempt to replace this SD card reader before it got to me, and whoever blasted this thing with heat just probably didn't tape this area off. Came in a little hot. They were not successful on the SD card reader attempt for replacement, so I went ahead and put that in just to start with. Now what we have to do is address this here. This seems to be working just fine, although it looks a little melted. This one, however, I cannot get the flex cable to go in there, so we're just going to replace this thing. I've already pulled one off of a donor board, and in that situation you can just heat it from the bottom side in order to melt it, and then you can remove that piece. And I have that one right here. So that's our donor. You can see it's in much better condition. The problem with this is when you melt this thing off the motherboard, if I flip this over, you're going to see that we have a whole bunch of components right in that corner. So heating from the bottom on your good board is not advisable. And for that reason, what we're going to do, I'm going to turn this sideways, and I'm just going to melt this thing off. You can see I've already got the flux on there. So I'm going to get some leaded solder, add it to the tip of my iron to kind of bring down the melting temperature for this, but then we're just going to push this off of the motherboard, because if we have enough heat we should be able to do it without damaging the connectors. So the first thing I'm going to do is add some leaded solder here to both sides, and let's flip this thing up so we can see what we're doing. Quite a mess. If I can lift this up on this side so it's not connected, then we can melt the other side without damaging the pads on the board. These things are fairly sturdy, relatively speaking. Better pair of tweezers. I think we're still connected here. Yeah. So let's see if we can lift this up a little more. Or you can just probably go back and forth. There we go. That's coming off. This ground pin on the top end here is going to be the most stubborn one. Try to get underneath here. And just move across. Alright, there we go. And as you can see, these are a little sturdier than the pads that we're usually used to working with on phones and so forth. We got that off. Now we're just going to clean this up. I'll grab some wick. I want to make sure we got this coated a little bit. Right, so no harm done there. Get this cleaned up, and we can actually set the connector into place and then just solder it onto the board. You don't have to worry about pre-tinning these. We do want to get all this old flux off though. This pin right here is the toughest one to melt. excuse me, that pad takes a lot of heat. Alright, so getting this centered, what I've been doing, well, I guess we need some flux. What I've been doing is just picking one at a time. Alright, let's just do this. And then we're going to stabilize the board, or stabilize the part with the tweezers. Once we kind of get it in place to where we want it, it doesn't have to be perfect, because I'll be able to move it around a little bit. But we do want a finer tip soldering iron for this piece. It's very close. Actually, let's use this one. This may not be getting enough heat. There we go. Alright, so we're on there. Now we got some stability. Flip it around. And we'll just add some solder to the rest of this thing. Let's see, are we focused? There we go. Yeah, we're off by a hair, but that's not going to be a problem. Let's add a little heat. Not enough to melt the connector, though. Need a little more solder, I think. And we can probably switch over to a fine tip since we've got some extra heat coming in. Should still have enough flux there. Okay, and we are on. Go and double check the other side while we're at it. And we can actually smooth these out a bit. Let's go ahead. Just to make it look nice. You can tell here's another ground pin right there. Want to leave a little tail behind. Don't need that. Actually, that'll do the trick. So we'll go ahead and get this cleaned up. And then we have a much better looking connector, not to mention the fact that we'll be able to put the cable in, because the other one is not doing anything whatsoever. Alright, you get the idea. That's it. I'll get this cleaned up, we'll plug everything in, make sure it's working.